Okay, g'day guys. This week I'm going to try a bit of a preview instead of a review of Saturday's meetings. I think everyone's going to be able to have a look at it this week, and then it'll just go out to subscribers next week. So we'll just go through the Randwick card. There's a 9 metre rail. There is a big, strong wind expected. So I think it's a slow 7 at the moment. Probably, a chance of an upgrade due to the strong winds, but the 9 metre rail the last few times has played a little bit off the inside. Probably not a big disadvantage to be too far back. Probably an advantage to be on pace-ish and just getting off. But tempo allowing, you have been able to run on there and sort of win from anywhere. So I'm not too worried about the rail position. The wind is probably going to be a bit more of a factor. It might hurt those sort of on the inside, and then you sort of out back with a bit of cover, maybe the place to be, but have to play it a little bit by ear. Starting the first race tomorrow for the 3-year-olds over the 1200 metres. King Strips and early scratching, so we're still left with a bit of competition here for such a small field for the lead. Yuma Desert has led effectively and on going for 4 in a row, but you've got Noble Joey looking like kicking up inside it, and even possibly Untamed Diamond and Gender Bien's not impossible that it'll try and go forward with the big weight shift in Dean Pena. So there could be a little bit of pressure, even though there is only 7 runners at this stage, which looks like it'll play into the hands of Dark Eyes and Static Lift. Dark Eyes was a really solid run. I'll probably just have a quick look at replays. What you want to see here is how well Dark Eyes jumps early and restrained. So these are similar. So this is Yuma Desert, it's well in front of it and ends up having to drag right back. So tomorrow, extra 100 metres, it'll probably lob into a position pretty easily, and if there is a bit of pressure or not pressure, it's still probably going to lob into a winning position. And they can't see it having a much sort of tougher run than it's had here, and there's a lot of upside to this horse. It's definitely the one to beat for mine. We'll go just to quickly watch it. Considering that it could have been in this sort of position for the same sort of money as it did at the start and ended up back wide chasing, which wasn't really the place to be. They did set like it was a pretty soft tempo. They've got home pretty well, so plenty of upside in this run. The other horse that's come back, a better horse, and I want to show quickly since it's been gelded first up. We'll skip to the turn just to show this Static Lift sat outside at pretty soft pace here, but just what he did first up and how quickly he put away a field, even though this was only a 3-year-old maiden. He showed some really nice acceleration to get right away from that bunch, and the race is basically over from that point. Next time out, straight to a rating 67 and in town, never easy. And even though he did sort of lob in a perfect trailing position, Dingo Mountain, who obviously has come out and won since in Saturday grade, again he's strong off a softish pace, and nothing in that race was getting past him. He was sort of hitting his traps on the line, so he's definitely one on the up, and he looks suited by a solid tempo here as well. Drawn a position where he'll probably lob a bit midfieldish, and he should be strong late. He's the one who's already proven past the trip and coming back a little bit. I do think they're clearly the 2 best hopes in the first. Moving on to the second race, and this is a tough race, but a great race. Early scratching of Hair Trigger. Heaps of pace on paper with the likes of Treviso, which showed good pace leading throughout its first start. Who Said It's Easy could possibly kick up. Russian Revolution showed great speed first up. Elsid's probably not going to show pace here, but has it. Conchita's a fast horse. Difficult to Get's a fast horse. Again, probably won't show pace in this sort of race, but has shown speed over shorter. Foxy Housewife showed a lot of speed first up, and Squared's even shown pace in the bush. Alman Hard Drawn Wide Blinkers first time has shown speed, but not at race day. Missed the start first up in a complete forgive. But so there are a few horses here with strong form. Morton's Fork will start from the top, coming back off a 231 day break. Has trialled very strongly. Jumped pretty solidly obviously there, and then sits midfield. Probably just go through to the last part here. So this was Nickel Lance that was heavily back during the week. Didn't exactly justify those odds, but it is a good form reference, and Morton's Fork for mine's trialled a lot stronger than it. It has had the 2 trials, 1,000 metre, 800 metre trial, so it should be ready for the 1200 first up. One gate's a bit of a nightmare, but Tim Clark is in good form and probably has a good chance to overcome that. Another horse leading in this race, and we'll see Alman Hard as well here, so I'll skip through most of this, but the start's important. So the 2 runners in this field tomorrow to note are Russian Revolution, who's come up a short price favourite, and Almin Hard, who's about a $20 chance at the moment, but gets the blinkers on and was heavily backed in this race. Fairly even tempo, but a pretty solid looking race. So Almin Hard straight out the back. Russian Revolution bounces straight outside the lead eventually. Almin had certainly got some tricks, but I'm sure it does have ability, and it was basically out of play at this point. If you see, it's back here. Russian Revolution outside the leader. I'd be forgiving of this horse, Almin Hard, for this race. Just nothing went to plan. These 2 gapped the rest. Russian Revolution eventually wins the race on protest. It certainly looked like he was all over the top of the winner at the end, so that looks a decent form reference for this race. Who Said It's Easy and Treviso both coming off solid enough wins at the provincials, both from Gosford. Treviso has to step up from the 1,000 to the 1,200, but actually did beat Who Said It's Easy, even if that was a bit luckily. Its first start, Conchita's won in town, so we'll have a look at this as the other main form reference. Again, the start's important. So if we see, this is In For A Dig, drawn extreme widest. Conchita's drawn in the centre, ends up outside the leader, so In For A Dig, and there's nothing between them here at the start. It's only the barrier, and the tactics have basically In For A Dig's now giving 7 or 8 lengths away that he otherwise probably wouldn't have if he had have drawn a gate. Doesn't have much luck. Ooh, we went a bit far there. So this is In For A Dig having to weave through, while Conchita and Starcrossed are up the front out of trouble. Was tough to make a lot of ground this day, so this is a really solid effort from In For A Dig, who came off a really dominant win first up, where he actually did show pace. So have a really quick look at that. Not a lot happens in the run. It's behind the leader, but this is the part I want to show where she's able to put the field away very quickly, which is always a good sign for these 2-year-olds. Pretty effortless sort of win, so she's definitely got upside, definitely an improving horse, and even though she sort of went 11 back to 1,000 now goes to 1,200, does look suitable. not drawn ideally in gate 8, but there is enough speed to sort of give her a chance to settle this time and finish off. Foxy Housewife's probably the other one that was a really professional win. Kembla and has a good chance, so I'm not be looking for a little bit of value here, and I'm anything of Morton's Fork, Russian Revolution, Who Said It's Easy, Almanhard, In for a Dig are probably the horses I'm going to be playing around, but wouldn't be surprised if there were a couple others jumped in there, but they look the ones suited at 1200 with a bit of a strong tempo tomorrow, and they're the ones I'll be looking to play around. Race 3, the highway, and a really tough highway. Nothing to me looks really well set up here to run a really strong 1200 metres on a bit of a testing surface. Royal Engineer obviously won a similar race to this last time out and is well placed, but has the 6-7 weeks between runs. 1200 metres on the testing Randwick is a little bit different to the setup he had last time. Starshaft is another quality runner, and probably those two are well clear quality wise of the rest at this stage. And it is also, it's now up to 58.5, and again 1200 on a testing seems to be as far as he sort of wants. Razor Legend was a good effort first up, but Razor's in trip quickly. A bit of a query with the jockey inside gate. Their top three are clearly the class runners, and then you've got to try and look for the sort of ones on the up or the ones in form. Osman's Gold's going really well, but raises to 1200 metres, still has that jockey query. But I wouldn't surprise. Cheeky's going really well around the provincials, up and back in trip. Has a bit of speed, and no surprise to see it sort of in the finish. And the other two main players I thought were King Mandu and Rock on Zariz, maybe Flash in the Dark. Quite an open race. I would be leaning to the top three as the ones, if they show up fit and well on the day, definitely the horses to beat. If there are cracks in their appearance or they don't show up on race day, it's really an open race with Mossman Gold clearly the next pick. King Mandu, Rock on Zariz, Flash in the Dark, thereabouts. But again, it's a bit of a lottery outside the top three. Race 4, 2600 metre race for the 3 odds and up, and everybody seems to have found Zatapaz here, media wise, and anyone who sort of is tipping a horse on this day seems to have found Zatapaz as their best bet. It really does have a lot going in its favour. Hieronymus back on, looks to get a really comfortable lead here unless Waller decides to send out possibly Defrost My Heart to test him. I don't think it really matters if he does. I think Zatapaz will probably appreciate a more solid tempo, and he'll probably set a pretty even tempo anyway. They're coming out of the 3200 metre race, where the two main horses out of this are obviously Murphy's Delight and Zatapaz. It's probably needed the run more there and had the tougher of the two runs here, with Murphy's Delight back and being saved, whereas Zatapaz has been up on a fairly solid tempo and tested, gets away, stays in the worst part of the track, if anything, in the straight. Murphy's Delight's had the back of these horses, every possible chance to get past it. Eventually does, but I think this horse, Zatapaz, definitely has a much better setup this time around. Should get everything in its favour to turn the tables on Murphy's Delight, who is probably the danger. I can't find, not a gypsy myself, coming out of 1900 metre form races, where 2000 metre form races, where he's basically had every possible chance and really doesn't hit the line. He's there and bobs, but not a horse that sort of runs through the line. And I thought the knockout was this horse, Spanish Stride, who has had similar setup, but does look a grinding type that 2600 metres will suit down to the ground, and is probably the value in the race at around the $12 mark at the moment. So, not spending too much time on this race. Zatapaz finally gets the perfect setup. Murphy's Delight probably the danger but no value, and Spanish Stride the knockout that does look value. So I'll probably be playing around Zatopaz and Spanish Stride here. Race 5 for the open class horses over the mile. Just a really competitive race here. There's not strong tempo on paper, but there are a lot of horses. Marinostro, Brack Jag, Amarata, High Midnight Scratched, Candelara, Farolitos even, Wine and Dine, Voliere. They all want to be on the speed, but nothing will probably be overly keen to lead. So there could be some pressure early trying to find some positions. And that sort of plays into the hands of Very Delicious for mine back in distance. I didn't think it was too suited by the 1800 metres on that bottomless track last time. We'll just have a quick look at it. It's only really the straight where we're that worried about. So Very Delicious has popped in behind here. They've gone very hard, but it is a day that's very tough to make ground, and this horse was jumping from 1400 to 1800 on a heavy 10. Huge ask. Really like that it's had the 3 weeks between runs and back in distance. And it looks the winner really until it just gets bogged down. Obviously Foreign Prince has come out and won again. Loophole's come out and run decently, so good form around this horse, and this is the first time I think she's been set up to win this preparation. Amarata comes off the good run last week, 7-day backup, which is a bit of an interesting play, but does draw well this time. I doubt we'll be in a speed duel or looking to have such a tough run this time, and should be right there. Marinostro, nothing you can say to knock it. It's definitely looks the class runner of this race, even though it is a pretty limited type, but it is well set up. Up in trip, maybe a little query, but shouldn't be a problem. He's proven over further. We'll be thereabouts. Farolitos gets out here third up, 5 weeks between runs, but has had a trial in between. Honest type, not overly gifted, but another one that will be there. Voliere's just from a non-winning camp, really. Up in trips, a bit of a query, and especially on a bit of a testing surface, I'll be around it. I'll definitely be losing on the race if it wins. And that's about it. There don't look too many horses in this race without a genuine winning chance, but definitely thinking Very Delicious around the $8 mark. Looks the value. Amarata's clear second pick, and then out to Marinostro and possibly Farolitos, who's quite well found for mine around the $5 chance. I would have expected a little bit better than that up to this grade. Race 6, 1400 metres for the mares. And this is another tough race. Like it's a very usual winter mares race. Winetail's coming off the luckless run last week. Basically didn't have a run. Now goes to 1400 metres, second up without, that as a fitness sort of performance. That was basically a soft trial. So big ask for her, stepping up in distance quickly on the back up. Allart's had no luck recently, but has had a lot of racing. Steps back up in trip. On merit alone off that last week's effort, she has got a chance, but it's pretty much impossible to have any real confidence in her at this stage. Electric Power, Campagna and Eklunds came out of this race already, by the way. Lou's the one who was dominant first up, and then second up out to this distance. I just want to show this at the start and then the turn for her. She jumps well. She's up in a challenging sort of position, but cannot find a spot there too early, and he doesn't want to press forward, so ends up going back and ends up in a really awkward position here where she's chasing for a long way. cops a bump at the top of the turn and really finishes her race off well again off a really strong first up effort. This is Harlem Lady here, who there's obviously not much between them, and I think she has a bit of a better setup this time too. Very similar horses in profile. Elu maybe a touch classier at this stage, but not much in them. Obviously the interesting jockey bookings with Hutchings and O'Hara, the choices, but which way they've gone with each is quite interesting. Elu obviously has the wider tough gate, but should be a bit of speed. Actually, sorry, there's Distraught gets a soft lead here, so that's the other query to the race, where they sort of decided the tactics of the different runners, with Distraught and Tender really the only couple of horses that are keen to get on the speed, I would say, here, with the others all trying to find a spot that suits them. So it's a pretty tough race for the mares here, and it looks a bit of a lottery for mine, finding positions early, query on the pace, horses up and back in trip, and others that have had long preps. So not a race I'm really too keen to play in, but Winetails, Allard, Elu, Harlem Lady are definitely the ones I'm keen to be around on. I think Tender's an interesting horse, coming back in distance off a little bit of a different form line. Did shoot down to Melbourne last start up to the 1800, so it's at a 1900, 1800 now, back to the 1400. If it gets on pace fairly cheaply, it could be one that could run a cheeky race here at 16 to 1 currently. So I think Elu's short enough, certainly around the $3 mark. Harlem Lady probably looks a little bit better value around the $6 mark. Distraught possibly a chance around the $12 mark, just because of the control it's going to get, and really no surprise with any result here, but that's probably a good starting point. Race 7, and biggish field here over the 1400 metres, so it's benchmark 78. There's not any mad speed, but there are again sort of Canarchy, Grundazit, like Xena, Never Back Down, that are all going to want to be up on the pace, with others sort of kicking up for an on-pace position. So the field size should set it at sort of an even tempo at worst here. Really struggled to find too many horses that were set up well to win, or were in strong form to win. I was trying to find Fig Tree last start, but they bumped it up a bit quickly for mine, sort of 1300 first, up 12, and then straight to 15 on a heavy 10. Didn't handle the ground at all and got beat 7.5. Looking to be leaning it to it back in distance and on an improving track. Obviously, the booking of the Apprentice makes life a little bit more difficult, and probably get a better price for that, you were hoping, around the $10 mark now, and possibly get a little bit better. Canarchy ran well last week on the backup. Never back down. Slidini ran well. Blinkers reapplied. The softer the track for it, the better. Super Tycoon is the one I wanted to find here. I think fourth run back. It does come out of a pretty average race, but now it draws sort of a softish gate, 52.5 on its back. Just want to show. So this is it back here. We'll just have a look at the start. He was basically, something's happened there. It's not usually a horse that's totally devoid of speed, and it's been eased out of the back of the race early. Ends up coming widest and runs past most of the field. This is Avanarco that came out and won well. Following this, $1,400 is probably the main query, but it is a winner over 1,400, obviously in softer grade than this. But when he strikes form, tends to hold it. So I do like that horse. I think like Zena's in really good form, probably presses forward. Back 100 metres is a good thing. Obviously, anyone who follows anything I do knows that I was a bit upset with what happened with Divine Style last start. He was obviously a good thing beaten, but you've just got to bear in mind, this is Divine Style here, that they've walked home here. They've come home sort of 15 to 20 lengths lower than they would normally for this sort of a race. And even though he was probably a tragedy beaten there, he's priced basically like he would have been had he won the race, because everyone's noticed the run. So More Than Fabulous has come out and run well since then, won during the week. So there is a bit of form there, but it was probably a better run on the day, considering you know exactly what it's done. Whereas this horse, you don't know the truth, and everyone's sort of working off what it wasn't. It is well set up to run well, so I'm not saying it definitely cannot win the race, but I think $5 is pretty close to what it should be. Like Xena around the $14 mark, Super Tycoon $17, and Fig Tree around the $10 mark are the ones I'm looking to play. Grunders Eat wouldn't surprise me around $6, but again, that's probably around its right price. So a pretty open race there, where things could go a few different ways. Slydini around $12 is the other horse that did look fairly priced. There were a few there. Metallic Crown, Courts of King, that I couldn't find, and they were a bit shorter in the market than some of the other main chances. Race 8 and 1200 metre open class. Ins and Outs stepped up to the 1400 last time, so it comes up here around a $3.10, $3.20 chance, something like that, which looks more than fair enough considering it's basically perfectly set up here. Went from the 11 to the 14 last start and beaten by Marinostro. They went a bit quick there. He's gone out of sort of about 10 lengths faster than average for a 1400 metre race, and that sort of told down the straight. Marinostro had everything in its favour and it was a bit too strong. Comes back to 1200, gets on speed, blinkers back on. Softer field if anything, and really does look well placed. The query runner is this horse coming back from Chartin in Smart Volatility. This is its second trial recently. It certainly has the class, has good speed, showed good pace over 800 metres at Gosford, gets outside the leader here very easily, and they sort of dominate. They dominate from the front. Really soft trial win. Trials are trials, so I wouldn't be taking that too seriously, but it obviously has the class to be very competitive in this race. An interesting choice of jockey with Adkins aboard. Barry Tennant obviously has good pace, so I'd expect it to be rolling forward, and my query is that John Sargent's not especially a trainer of sprinters, and he does tend to have his horses fairly soft first up. Very rarely are they sort of wound up ready to go, so I really think he needs to be wound up to be beating Ins and Out today, and I really doubt that he will be. So that's my only query. If there is solid betting for him and he does parade exceptionally well, I will be throwing him in. The other couple of horses I was keen to play here who have been a bit unlucky. This is Wouldn't Be Nice. Ends up back on the fence here and sticks hard rail. This is his second up run. Similar run first up where he made a bit of ground. Held up. Has to come around, fine missed. Held up, goes back to the fence. This was not an overly strong race for this, but it was a listed event over the 1100, so crowded again late, really never gets solid crack at them, and he's in the worst part of the track, so it's a horse that's ready to peak third up, loves it soft, and has plenty of upside. He's around the $18 mark, I believe, currently with a few places. The other horse I'm interested in is Hidden Warrior. Came off a really solid trial with a bit of intent, and then it was very strange ride for a horse that has good pace. So this is it here out wide in the red cap with the white. Basically eased out of the event. 3 wide and last. Here, still not a lot of effort shown to get it into the race at any time. Comes widest, still hasn't been touched really. And he's not a sort of horse that is known for running on. More of an on-pace sort of grinder with a short sort of burst, and only ever gets 2 backhanders and really chases hard late. So I thought this was a really solid effort first up, considering things went against it there, and it's ready to do something, I thought. So they're the main fortune. I thought Ins and Outs basically are the best placed horse all day. Wouldn't it be nice? And Hidden Warrior were the 2 that could improve. Smart Volatility has the class, but without seeing it in the parade yard and any late support for it, it's very hard to have any confidence in it at this stage. And a pretty solid little betting race. I think Ins and Out will be well backed before race time. Last race, and pace aplenty here for the sprinters. Plateau Gold, Minnesota, Miss Wicked Wanda, Ale Cheval, Quell, Princess Ailani, if she wants to, For Me Dad, all mad speedsters. 1,000 metres here, and really looks set up for something just behind the speed or a back marker to get into it. Sometimes it doesn't work that way over the 1,000 metres, but here it really looks like they'll get their chance. Wanna Finding Costinati, who's trialled really well twice, once before it ran first up on the heavy track. Have to be forgiving of that. Has gone back to the trials and done well since. Rado obviously was a big blower first up. Ran on quite well considering, probably ran better than market expectation considering the extent of the blow late there, and he's better set up here. Skripchenko's another horse that does look to me like a 1,000 metre back marker, that if she's given a bit of a dig early, she'll, just to keep with the tempo, doesn't get too far off them, she can be really rattling late. And even Rose of Man first up from a break is a bit of a 1,000 metre short course back marker for mine, and has a nice finish to its race when it's not just in the mood but set up nicely, which it looks to be here. So back markers for mine in the last, in Costinati, Rado, Skripchenko and Rose of Man. And you know, the horses like Hot Hit and these horses, you know, Minnesota, who will be right up there and are quite tough types, will be tough to get past late, but I think the edge is with the back markers here. So there's a bit of a preview for Randwick tomorrow, and hopefully we'll have a bit of luck, and hopefully the wind doesn't play too much havoc with the day. Thanks, guys.